This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 73, the movie review of Black Panther. We will also talk about the Avengers Infinity War trailer.
All right.
I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and the man who has perfect pitch.
That's right.
Ian Jones.
I was locking in my starting note before this.
Your ridiculous starting note.
My golden pipes.
It's just like, wait, that's your test? That's your mic test?
That is, and it has been this entire time, but you usually don't hear it because I'm in a different room,
Man.
centering myself, drawing on the podcast gods.
I really enjoy all of your prep work before we actually start recording.
Well, hey, this time I was ahead of the curve. I sent you the still already for YouTube.
Yes, you sent me the still. I've been late. I was late today. Usually it's Ed, but I was definitely late today.
Usually it's me.
He is just like 10 minutes later. You're just like, "Are you there? Hey, we doing this or what?" And it's just
yeah, we're doing it.
Oh man,
let me get my pants on. Do I need pants for this?
We don't do video for this podcast, although we could do video for this podcast.
I don't know. That's a dangerous thing,
right? Okay, Jones, let's get into Avengers Infinity War. So I just refamiliarized myself with the trailer. And obviously it looks great because Marvel. But the thing that I find interesting is like it's kind of interesting to see such a darker movie forming in front of us. The thing that we've been waiting for it's been like 10 years, right? It's like the first one. Because Iron Man was like, what, 2008? And I think even Incredible Hulk was 2008 also. So it's been like 10 years. And we've been leading up to this one character. And so one of the things I really enjoyed about the trailer is I loved how dark it was. And I loved getting the narration from Thanos and seeing him actually, we always see him just sitting down, and he's actually like walks through the portal, and you're just like, okay,
right. He's here to do something. Finally,
he's here to finally do something that we've been waiting for 10 years. So I'm super excited about it. I loved seeing him, and I'm like, all right, okay, here he is. And so then you have. The other thing I wanted to say was just completely random because we were talking about this in one of the previous podcasts when we saw Thor Ragnarok, because he loses his eye at the end of the movie. And it's still gone. It's still gone. So they're just going to keep moving on with this. They're just going to keep going.
Stupid eye patch. Well, I mean,
it's eye patch.
I don't know. I think they might. Personally, I hope they do something else.
Right?
Because it's possible to replace his eye and give him something else. I don't think he looks as good with it.
Well, well, it's like we were talking about before. I mean, they disfigured one of the best looking actors.
Right, yeah.
In all of it. So it's, and we're talking about one of the best looking amongst a bunch of really good looking actors. So it's just like so weird that they went ahead and did that, and they definitely continue the story on. So it's so weird. The only thing I have to say, man, is I have one question for you, and this is something I've been talking about with everybody. And do you think someone dies?
Okay. Do
you think someone dies in Avengers Infinity War?
Oh, yeah, I think probably Vision does.
Okay, so I'm thinking, I've always thought that it's probably about time for something crazy like Cap to die. But we're in agreement that someone's dying, right?
Yeah, well,
we don't know who.
The thing is, those guys aren't under contract and after these movies.
Yes.
So maybe it makes sense that they do. The thing about the Infinity Gauntlet, when it's all put together, which is kind of cool, is that it potentially gives Marvel Studios a chance to hit the reset button.
Yes, it does.
Because it can change reality. So it's possible to bring back the superheroes as, younger, new characters and just continue on with more movies, because whoever's holding it, their will basically becomes reality. So I think when Thanos gets a hold of it in the comic books, he wants like half the universe's population to be dead and gone, and that happens. That becomes the reality.
Yep.
And so there's less people for him to deal with moving forward. So I think it's an interesting opportunity to get some different iterations of these characters and maybe some younger actors.
Which would be interesting. And that would be a bunch of really difficult shoes to fill.
Yeah,
it's similar.
But
it's similar to like Han Solo with the Solo movie.
Right. So, and we have to wonder if there are even going to be other Han Solo movies. I can't believe that there's going to be another one after this, because I just don't think it's going to do as well as Disney.
No, I don't think so either.
They probably should have pushed it back to December.
I firmly believe they should have pushed it back to December, because they've been having so many little issues, and they've already admitted that Ron Howard had to reshoot a huge portion of the movie, and to like keep the same date and not push it back seems crazy to me. Like, how do you not want the extra 6 months,
to work on the movie, right?
To work on the movie, it's pretty devastating in my opinion.
I guess the only thing you could say is they probably already got started on the visual effects anyway.
Probably.
But the thing about someone like Iron Man and Tony Stark, and we've talked about this before, that's going to be an evergreen character. So we're going to be debating after Robert Downey Jr.'s run, the next person who takes up the mantle of Iron Man is going to have big shoes to fill.
Oh yeah.
Much like after Sean Connery left James Bond, there were, everyone argues about who's the best Bond, and and so we've been spoiled, I think, by Robert Downey Jr.'s performances, and also the writing. The writing for Marvel has just been incredible. Really, I think maybe the third movie was probably the weak link, and they took a huge risk with it too.
We've always been in disagreement with this. I always felt like Iron Man 2 is the weak one. I've always felt that way. I thought Iron Man 3 was always an appropriate movie for Iron Man as a character and as Tony Stark as a character. I do get why people aren't a fan of the third one, but I thought it's a very important movie. I've always thought that. And we've always been in disagreement with that also. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this came up before.
Maybe not on a podcast. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of, this is totally off topic.
What?
But I was just thinking, have we ever, this is what, episode 73? Have we ever done a Nicolas Cage movie?
No. Because Nicolas Cage hasn't released anything.
Isn't that amazing? Here's the thing. No. Here's the thing about it.
But Nicolas Cage hasn't released anything that comes to theaters.
Well, okay, yes. Okay, you're right about that. But if you think about it, if we had done this 15 years ago, he would definitely be in the mix, right? We would have reviewed some terrible movies that he did.
I mean,
It's
the
just
problem.
it's
even
amazing.
15 years, I don't think is long enough. I think it's 25. I think
okay,
it's 25.
all right, 25 years ago. Like, you know, certainly in the 90s, of course, there would have been podcasts. But,
well, yes, but in the 90s,
had we had a little show of some kind,
there would have been a ton of movies because he was so popular in the 90s.
It's just amazing.
He had so many movies coming out.
Oh. It's just so funny. Like, it's just amazing that they're so bad. And I saw a preview for another one, which is why I started thinking about this.
Oh,
because he's constantly releasing movies.
Oh, yeah.
And, like,
they all go straight to
terrible.
DVD.
And you would think that one of them would just be, like, surprisingly good. And we would have a chance to talk about it. Anyway, totally off topic.
Even the ones that Nicolas Cage has released that were for Netflix have not been good. And I don't even know what to tell you at that point in time, because that's when they have control. Like, you can do what you want. You know what I mean?
Although I have to tell, what was that one movie? Was it Drive Fast or something like that?
Oh, Drive Angry?
Drive Angry is a lot of fun. It's terrible. It's really terrible. But the movie is so much fun.
It is a fun movie, but it's god awful. That movie is so bad.
Oh. Anyway,
man.
All right, we've probably
talked enough. Do you got anything for Avengers?
I guess I didn't really talk about the trailer at all, did I?
You didn't talk about the trailer at all.
Well, okay, this sort of rolls in. I mean, I guess it's a good thing that that the Black Panther has, and we'll talk about this in the movie, but, you know, his army is there and faithful because it seems like they need those numbers.
Right?
And there really isn't, you know, anything else coming after whatever it is Thanos brought with him.
Yep. And it makes a whole lot of sense, and it's definitely a positive thing, and there's definitely footage in the trailer where they're like fighting, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, man. Do you want to take a break then so we can get into Black Panther?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break, and then let's finally get into Black Panther after we've derailed a lot already. T'Challa, after the death of his father, the King of Wakanda, returns home to the isolated, technologically advanced African nation to succeed to the throne and take his rightful place as king. This movie is directed by Ryan Coogler, who has not done very many movies at all. He's done 3. He's done this one, he's done Fruitvale Station, and he's done Creed, all of which are good movies, and all of them have Michael B. Jordan in it, which is really weird. He really enjoys working with Michael B. Jordan. And so, those are the only movies he's actually done. And we've actually reviewed Creed, which is also very good. And so, if anybody wants to listen to that podcast, listen to Creed. Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa or Black Panther. He was in 42, Get On Up, and then that really terrible Gods of Egypt movie. Do you remember?
I don't remember who he was, though.
He was like the really effeminate character. He was like kind of effeminate.
Oh, and he was.
Yes, that one. You remember that character? It was a really weird character. You're just like, why is this guy... Why is he like this, and why is he in this movie?
And
like,
I remember talking about him like, God, this is going to be the Black Panther. I remember we had a discussion on that movie.
Yeah,
like, wait a minute, this guy's going to be Black Panther?
Yes, when we were doing the Gods of Egypt podcast, we definitely talked about how this guy's going to be Black Panther. He's great as Black Panther,
right? Yeah.
But like when you watch that movie, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know if I can watch 2 hours of him pretending to be a superhero. He must be a really good actor, and he is.
Right.
So that's what a nice surprise.
Oh man, Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger. He was in Fruitvale Station, Creed, and Fantastic Four. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. She was in 12 Years a Slave, Star Wars, and The Jungle Book. She's been showing up in a lot of stuff lately, though.
She's wonderful, and you know what's weird
She's great.
is I didn't recognize her. Like, I knew she was in the movie, but I'm used to seeing her without hair. And for some reason, she just totally looked different to me.
Yeah, she looked very different in this movie. But yeah, she's great. She's fantastic. And she's also, like, she's one of those, like, classically trained. So she's, like, a Broadway actor, too, and everything. So she's, like, done all that kind of stuff. Danai Gurira as Okoye. She was in All Eyes on Me, and she's Michonne on The Walking Dead. So she's another strong, like, badass freaking character in something. Oh. And I think it's appropriate.
She's wonderful.
Yeah. Martin Freeman as Everett K. Ross. He's been in Sherlock, the Hobbit trilogy, when he was Bilbo, and Fargo. Daniel Kaluuya as W'Kabi. He was in Kick-Ass 2, Sicario, and he was also in the really major movie last year, Get Out. Did you ever watch Get Out?
No.
He's like the main guy in Get Out. It's really good. It's a fun movie. It's like, you have to deal with the fact that it's really satirical, but it's fun. Leticia Wright is Shuri. She was in Humans, Black Mirror, and she's going to appear in Ready Player One this year. And I'm going to skip through a bunch of characters. Forrest Whitaker's in this, Angela Bassett's in this, but we all know about them. And I'm going to go right to Andy Serkis as Ulysses Claw, who was in Lord of the Rings, King Kong, and Planet of the Apes, and one of the very, very few times. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the few times where you actually see what Andy Serkis looks like. Because he's always in digital makeup, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an incredible actor. And, I gotta think that's gonna change at some point.
I had a conversation with Mark. Mark, the friend of the podcast here.
Our friend of the podcast.
Yeah. And he was like, I figured out how we could do this. He goes, what we should do is we should write a story about a motion capture artist trying to get an Academy Award and have Andy Serkis in it. That way he plays the actor, Andy Serkis. Like, he plays the actor, but he also, there's scenes of him doing motion capture in the movie to try to get him that award. Do you think that would work? I was just like, you might be on something, Mark.
You'd have to give him a drug addiction or something.
Right? But that's fine. That's fine. He's struggling with struggling with the fact that he's probably one of the greatest actors of the generation, but nobody respects him. Like, the Academy doesn't respect him. So he spirals down into this terrible thing. Maybe we can get him a freaking Academy Award. Unfreaking believable. I just thought when I was having that conversation with Mark, I was like, we could probably pull that off. Because it's almost like watching, what was that movie with Michael Keaton?
Oh, Birdman.
Birdman. It'd be like watching Birdman, an actor that played a superhero a while. You know what I mean? It's like the same kind of thing, except instead it's Andy Serkis as a motion capture actor. But that's all the actors I have for this, so let's go ahead and take a break, and then we can actually get into talking about this Black Panther movie. Alright, Jones, we're back here for our Quirks and Likes section. So I am going to start with these quirks here, and I don't have a lot of quirks with this movie. So I'm hoping that you, sir, can pick me up and help me talk about this through what we're doing here. So, really the only quirk I have, and it's like such a small little thing, is there's the scenes with W'Kabi and Okoye. Now, they're obviously, like, she refers to him as her love, and it happens again at the end of the movie.
Right.
Where he's just like, do you really got to do this, my love? And she's just like, for Wakanda in the split second or something like that, right? And so, like, I thought it was weird that there was two scenes where they mentioned how together they are, and there's not any scene at all that shows that they're actually with each other whatsoever. It's like, even I was expecting a scene when Eric Killmonger finally takes over, and they're arguing back and forth because she specifically is talking to him and he responds, and there wasn't a conflict there at all, which I would think there would have to be some sort of conflict.
Well, she definitely gave him a look,
but that was it. That was it. How did it's like her character has not been known, like pretty much none of the female characters in this movie are known to like not say anything. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So it's like so weird that you have a scene where he's clearly being crazy, and she's just like, "This is like, why does she say that this is completely out of control?" She's just kind of like, "Well, this is how we've done it for centuries," and that was it. And then like he counters her, and then there's nothing there. She just gives him this terrible look, and I was always expecting something to happen.
Right, and I mean, it's possible had they had some sort of scene together outside of that, maybe it just would have stopped the rhythm of the movie.
Which is very good. That's one of the things I liked about this movie, is I think the rhythm of the movie is very good. So you're not wrong at the fact that it could just screw something up. I just thought I thought that a good time period to even bring this up would be when they confront each other at the end of the movie. I figured even then, just give me a line or so, and there was just nothing. So the whole time I'm thinking, like, this relationship between these two characters are not important at all. Like, neither one of them are all that dedicated to that relationship whatsoever, and that's just kind of how it feels. That's just how it feels, and that's just how I took it. I was like, okay.
That's one interpretation of it. And I mean, it's funny because I didn't really even read too much into it, but it's just
I'm sure most people didn't.
Here's the thing. Okoye is married to her job. They never say that they're married or what the status officially is of their relationship. But I mean, that damn rhino stops and refuses to harm her.
Yes.
So she must spend some time on the outer region, on the borders with him, but not much, right?
Yeah, right? Which is the thing that I'm like, what the heck, And so I just thought that it's such a stupid little thing, and it doesn't really hurt the movie at all. But I just thought it was so weird. I was just like, man, why is this little thing in here? And there's like no reaction at all.
But here's the interesting thing, though. Because what's the boyfriend's name? I can't remember.
Wakabe.
Okay, so Wakabe, his place is protecting the border, so he's usually far away from her.
Yes,
and by siding with Killmonger, he gets to spend all this time next to the woman he loves. So, I mean, even if they're not getting along or whatever, he is around her a lot more as a result. So
there's this extra little storyline that we've created.
Right, we need a comic book of this, damn it.
One of the other reasons why it's not just that Eric Killmonger brought the murderer of his family, like his parents, it was also so that he could actually be closer to the woman he loves. Okay, all right.
Well, right. Oh, that's the Spin Zone version of that.
Alright, man.
That's really it. That's your only quirk.
Was it. I have that little quirk there. The only other quirk I have, and it's exactly a quirk, and I don't have this written down, but one of the things that happens in this movie is it has this message. It has this message that goes through, and it's both a quirk and a like, because messages in movies are always you gotta tread lightly, And I think this movie does it to a point where it's like not heavy-handed, but it's close. And so it's just close. One of those things.
Okay,
that's the thing.
I agree. Well, so what's your take on that?
Well, the only thing I can say is that I enjoy the message, but it's also almost heavy-handed. So, and I don't think it's too heavy-handed, because there are movies that, and I don't know why I can't think of any movies at the top of my head, but there are some that are just so heavy-handed that I'm just like, don't want to hear it. Like it's too much. It's gone too far. And I think this one they tread that line real close. Like there's a lot of scenes in this movie where it shows this message about the plight of black people and their relationship with Africa. And so there's a lot of that in this movie. And pretty much Eric Killmonger's character is just the embodiment of that anchor. And so it's a really interesting way to convey it, but it does lay it home, and it's close. So my whole thing is it doesn't bother me about it. I could see how it could bother some people about it. It doesn't bother me. I think it's close to the line and not past the line. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, all right.
And no, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think the message is important, especially in a really good, really successful movie like this, that a lot of white people are going to watch.
Yeah, right?
You know, I mean...
Which is why it's important to have the message in there.
Yeah. My best friend should not get pulled over by the fucking police for no fucking reason. I'm sorry that you're going to have to take out a bunch of F-bombs, but you should not be pulled out of your car for driving while black, where they put you in handcuffs for no damn reason, and then, you know, they release you and because they don't find anything in your car and tell you to have a nice day. That's bullshit.
Well, it is,
that is,
and you know what?
Fucking bullshit.
And my biggest problem with a situation like that is I'm the type of person that's okay with it until you, like, my problem is the have a nice day at the end as if nothing happened. Like, that's the thing that ticks me off the most. Like, it's not all the other things. It's the thing after the fact where he's just, like, takes the handcuffs off and just, like, have a nice day. And I'm just like, what the hell, man? You're not even going to attempt an apology? No. Whatever. You know,
right.
whatever.
That would mean admitting that they did something wrong.
Yes, that would mean that admitting they did something wrong.
That's the problem with the system entirely.
Yes. But that's just how it is. We never get very political or social on this podcast, but this one does have that message in it, so it is there. So, I don't have any other quirks, man. I got some likes, but so what do you got?
Okay,
you got quirks
all right. Well, this is entirely self-serving, but I'm just going to say that that my quirks are brought to you by the Keg restaurant, which if you haven't been and you wanna do something special for Jackie, I definitely recommend giving it a try. And hey, how about sending us some comps over here? Because
the Keg.
Annie took me she was here for Valentine's Day, and it was freaking awesome, man.
Was it?
Oh god, it was the best. I had prime rib, and it was the best piece of meat I'd ever had in my entire life. I love prime rib. Hands down. So, I'm being incredibly selfish here after talking about something that really matters to something that's incredibly selfish of me.
I'll definitely have to try the Keg out. I know there's one out here, so
there is.
You had to be in Tucson when this happened, but there is one out here, right? Too, so I'll have to try it.
So Killmonger seemed a little strange to me.
Okay.
And I say this kind of hesitantly, because here's the problem I have. You know, everything about his hatred and I think his point of view makes sense for a young black kid in Oakland who loses his dad, who goes into the foster and everything. So I get that. I understand the point of view that he has, and he's a really threatening villain. He's a good villain to have in this movie.
Oh yeah.
But they sort of smash him together with a character, with part of some other character that doesn't make any sense to me. That where it doesn't add up is the Annapolis the fact that he went to Annapolis, the fact that he served in the military, and his time in the CIA. Because he does not carry, and guys who have that sort of career, they carry themselves in a certain manner. Even if they become radicalized, they carry themselves in a certain manner. So it explains how he can do all the physical stuff that he is, and how he can defeat, T'Challa one-on-one. Yes. When there are no powers. And I think everyone saw that coming because there has to be a movie. And that's, the second act right there. Yep. The big thing that happens in the second act. But it really seems to me like the way he carries himself is not ex-military, and it certainly isn't CIA. So I thought that was really muddy. I thought they really, they lost me there.
I could see that. I can definitely see what you mean, because anybody that you have that are ex-military that has a career like that, you can tell, they just have a feeling about them, where there's a certain amount of discipline that stays there, and he doesn't have it at all. No, and so I definitely get what you mean. Okay,
I didn't really. There's sort of this little side story. Well, it isn't really a side story, but there's one little element that I thought was maybe one too many. And that's the idea of these Wakandan operatives all over the planet, and that's almost like it didn't need to be in there. And I felt the same way about the CIA character Ross, bringing him back in, even though he had been introduced before. And in a way, he represents the audience members, because for most of us watching, this is the whole Wakandan culture is very different. It's very foreign to us. So it's good to. So I guess it's good to have a character like that. But the thing I was thinking was, you can take him out of the movie and still do the same movie.
You could. And you could just have somebody else operate the thing at the end of the movie.
Right, yeah. Or, why is that even a thing? It could have been his sister or something, since that's her lab. So, I guess I one of my likes, which I'll get into about, the storytelling and about how Wakanda is portrayed, I really felt like, you start looking at the two white guys who are in here, and we don't need one of them, and we don't need to go to South Korea either for part of the movie. The awesome stuff is in Wakanda, and once I got used to it, once I settled into the movie with the tribal fight and him walking around with his ex-girlfriend in the marketplace, I was just like, let's stay here. Let's stay here for the whole movie. But anyway, that's just that's a real little thing. And I totally get why they used it, because, it's...
You got it right. He's there as the audience member. He's the one who's discovering the new stuff along with the audience. Right, because as far as they're concerned, they're just like a farming community. They don't have any technology or anything.
What you stole, everything you stole from them was right here. And so, I get using that, that's one of the oldest, storytelling methods is to really have someone like that who is totally oblivious, but I just think we would have gotten there anyway. Probably. As you spend more time in that culture and immersing yourself.
Yep. It makes sense. It's just one of those things where it's just one of those movies where I guess they really needed to put a token white guy. Right. There's way too many. We need to throw somebody. we need to
get an extra white guy in here. There can't only be one white guy with one arm.
Oh man, that's great.
Oh damn it, that's awesome. And it reminds me of the comic books. When Black Panther first started, I think on issue number 2, I was reading this article online. Something like the second issue, Marvel told them to add more white people into the comic book. So they had the Black Panther beating the crap out of the KKK, which I just think is freaking hilarious. And I mean, that's like the best response. Because, you know, it's just, he just wasn't really needed. And, you know, while it's cool to see a familiar face and to tie in the movies and everything.
Yes.
You know, they certainly didn't need Bucky for this. And they could have gone that route. You know, the Winter Soldier could have showed up. Yep, but he didn't, and I think that was appropriate. Credits. Yeah, the very end.
Yeah, he's mentioned once before when they take him in, because she specifically says, "Oh, another white guy,
a broken white boy,
another broken white boy, I got to take care of." So he's mentioned there, and then he's at the end credits, and that's the only thing that's in there.
You know, I thought the initial introduction was underwhelming. I thought it was really weird to me that it started off in Oakland with the king showing up, and I was just like, why is this set in 1992?
Yes, that was... I agree. That was a really weird way to set that up. And I almost feel like that's something that they felt like they needed to help tie together the later scene and the later connection.
Right.
So... Right. It's just, it is awkward. You're not wrong. It's a very awkward scene.
And there is the payoff, but it's just a weird thing to, you know, usually there's something a little bit more exciting before you get that comic, before you get that logo and fanfare.
Yes.
The other thing, which I'm real curious to know, because now I'm going back and I'm second guessing myself, and maybe you can comment on this, is that I felt like T'Challa was out of the movie for too long. Okay. Now the scenes that happened were really important and they were cool scenes, but I remember thinking to myself, God, I really just want to see more of him. Yes. And you know that he's not dead, and you knew, and I knew that he had to lose that battle. Because here's where we're going to get our movie. You know, we're going to get our movie because this radical is going to take the throne. And, you know, we need to see T'Challa, you know, actually learn something and grow if he wants to take over Wakanda.
Yes.
But I felt like, you know, he's out of this for a little too long.
Okay, I'll make a small comment on this. Now, I agree with you to an extent, because I definitely remember while I was in the movie theater, I was wondering when he was going to show back up. Because, like you said, all the scenes up to that point are very important, but he definitely takes a back seat because he's, you know, as far as everybody's concerned, is dead by that point in time. And I definitely felt that way. But I thought it was just enough. Like, for me, I felt like he was out of it for a while, but it wasn't too long. And so I can lead up to the point where I'm like, oh, well, he was gone for a while, but I felt like he was gone long enough. I don't think he was... I think you needed to have him gone, and you needed to basically have Wakanda have to deal with Killmonger for a brief period of time in order for you to really get the gravity of everything that's happening. Because, like, he does a lot of... During that sequence, he does a lot of radical things, like burns all the things that makes the Black Panther the Black Panther.
Right,
you know, like, he does, like, a lot of really radical things, and he starts, like... He's just, like, starting to militarize everybody, and it's just, like... you're just like, crap, somebody needs to show up right now and get rid of this guy. And then that's when Black Panther shows up. So it's one of those things where, like, it almost was needed. But I see what you mean. I mean, it's a Black Panther movie, and he's out of it for probably 20 minutes of the movie. So I get what you mean. Anything else?
No, that's it. And, you know, those are all just real nitpicky things, I gotta say, in my opinion.
Okay. So, we'll get into the likes. The first thing I want to say is, I thought the visuals of this movie were just gorgeous. Wakanda itself was gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I loved all the different scenes that they had of, even when he went to, like, the ancestors and all that, like, prayer, that like, you know, Sahara type.
Yeah, the ancestral plane.
The ancestral plane. That was just gorgeous, and the lighting was gorgeous. And even with that, tacking on all the costumes, it's so different because you usually don't see movies set in like Africa. So seeing like so many different styles of costumes, you can kind of see how they've progressed and how it looks very modern, yet it has that feel of like African, you know, wear.
Right. Yeah.
I just thought it was so cool to see the different costumes. And I usually don't pay attention to costumes that much, but I thought that this one was just like everything just looks so gorgeous. I love the designs of all the ships that they had. That design of that one ship that he flies at the end, that Ross flies at the end, was really cool. And it was just, the visuals were just so good in this movie. So I thoroughly, it was a feast for the eyes, and I drank it all in. It was great. I loved it. I absolutely loved all the visuals. The other thing I want to say is I thoroughly enjoyed all the performances. I like seeing Andy Serkis not be in digital makeup and just see him kind of be him. He was a really weird character, but I enjoyed seeing every time he was on screen. I enjoyed seeing him, and I just thought it was great. I loved Okoye. She was just... She's exactly how she should be, because when you read the Black Panther comic books, the race of women, like that warrior thing of women, group of women who protect the king, are like the most fearsome fighters in Wakanda. And so getting that from her is just so great. Like, you got so much, and then you got enough more taste of it at the end of the movie too, of the rest of them. But it was just so appropriate, and I just loved her character. She was just like so badass.
Yeah.
She's just so badass, and I just loved her. You got a comment?
Yeah. So yeah, you know, I thought the ladies in particular, and you're absolutely right about all the performances. Even
yes.
Even the guy who played the brother, I had something to say about him, and if I think about it, I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
But I thought the ladies had a strong showing.
Oh yeah.
In a way that wasn't remotely pandering. Like it was fresh. It was perfect. Like all of their characteristics, you know, the way that they were characterized, I thought was right on. You know, Okoye, I would absolutely watch a movie about her, and
right, I would too.
They've got to figure out a way to do a movie with Peter Parker and Shuri, because because it just makes so much freaking sense to have those two team up. It just would be crazy. It would be amazing, and I would drop everything that I was doing and write it for Marvel. I could write that movie for Marvel.
How are you getting these two characters together?
It makes so much sense. I mean, they're both teenagers. Together? They're the same age, but she's smarter than he is, and she's got the technology. They would be an incredible combo. They would be an incredible team up.
You are out of control.
No, I could absolutely write that movie. Anyway, all right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I really enjoyed Shuri also, because the other thing I really liked about her is their relationship between T'Challa and Shuri. They really felt like brother and sister. She'd just make all these little little jabs at him, and he's just like, you know, you can tell that she's just like the little sister that bothers the hell out of him.
That gets away with it too.
Great. Yeah, that gets away with it. It's just like, I just love that connection between the two. There were so many scenes with them where she's just like clearly just like taking these jabs at him, and he just kind of has to deal with it because it's his little sister. It's just great. I love that. And like you were saying, with just the rest of the performances, like, all the ladies are fantastic. They're all great surrounding Black Panther. They're all good, and I think all the performances were good. The acting was great, and it was just everything was just beautiful, and the acting was great too. I don't even know. I thoroughly enjoyed everything that was going on in this movie, which is why I have such little tiny nitpicky things about the movie that I didn't like. So go ahead and, before I start taking more things,
sure.
What do you got for likes?
Well, something that I liked was really T'Challa's character development. I thought was incredibly well done because, you know, he's got this certain temperament to him, which I think is incredible for a guy who A, has superpowers, and B, is also the king of a nation and has to protect that nation. But one of the things I liked is that, in a way, he kind of makes the same mistakes that his father made. His dad made a pretty big mistake, and, you know, basically that allowed a situation where, you know, his nephew, where Eric Killmonger could potentially, you know, come back and want to do the nation harm.
Yes.
And I thought, you know, T'Challa could have just thrown his cousin, you know, could have just banished him. He was already king. The challenge was already set. But, you know, in a way, he made the same mistake that his father did, because he acted like a warrior instead of acting like a king. And that was one of the things his council asked him, you know, was that they said, hey, we need you to be a king. And instead he went out on a mission and was the warrior, was the Black Panther, and instead of also being, you know, making the right choice. Yeah, his father didn't have to go to Oakland at the start of the movie and put himself in that situation. He could have sent people to go and retrieve him.
Yes.
So, you know, I thought it was really interesting to see those two parallels. And once T'Challa went back to the ancestral plane for the second time, and they have that conversation, and he figures out that, you know, look, these traditions and everything, you know, we've made the wrong choices here. We've got to, you know, we've got to fix our mistakes, and we can't just sit on the sidelines anymore. I really felt like this has got to be the best superhero movie I've ever seen. I just like the writing and everything. I thought it was perfect. You know, the tone of it. And the lesson that the main character has to learn, you know, it's so next level. You know, like it's right in between fantasy and sci-fi and just, you know, for me, the movie hit all the right notes. So I mean, that's kind of one big like, but that conversation where he has in front of the other kings, I was just like, you know, they get it. The character gets it. The writers just absolutely knocked this out of the park.
They did. It is a very, very important scene in the movie, and as a whole for the characters, and as for the future of Wakanda and the future of Black Panther
and the planet, and we also and that ties into the trailer that we were talking about at the beginning of this, where we see that, you know, Wakanda is going to fight for Earth now. Yep. And that's really cool. The other like I had, which I think a lot of people may not know about, and that is this character M'Baku. Yes. In the comic books, he has an unfortunate name, but he's this incredible villain called Man-Ape, who was constantly a thorn in Black Panther's side, and also with the Avengers because of how powerful he is. And I wondered how he was gonna be used in the movie. And I thought, well, you know, they showed him real briefly at the beginning, challenging for the throne, and he fails. Yes. And I thought that can't be it. That can't be how they're using this character. And so I was so happy to see the family go to him for help. Yep. And I thought it was really, you know, they nailed his character right on the head, because he wants things to be how they were. You know, he doesn't like the technology. He's all about tradition and everything. And, you know, they basically made him ruler of the people in the mountains. So he's got his own community to worry about. And you have to wonder if a lot of those fighters are going to be in the next Marvel movie that they're doing here. But I really liked how they nailed his character. I thought that the performance was great. But they even left the door open for him to be a potential villain. Simply because he's not into he's not going to be okay with sharing technology and everything. But I thought that was a really cool way of using the character. And it's still working, rebranding him and using him.
Yep.
So that's it for me, buddy.
That's it? Okay, so I guess we're going to go ahead and rate this thing then. So I think it's pretty easy to tell, but I think the movie's fantastic. And I think it's up there as one of the better Marvel movies. It's high up on the list, and that's saying something because they're all very good. And I think this is one of the ones that's towards the top. And I think I love the visuals, I love the story, I love the performances, I love the progress of the characters, and I love the progress of the entire story as a whole. So I say see it. I love it. I think it's just such a good movie. I kind of want to see it again. So
yeah,
it was great.
I think the only odd thing for me about this is how the movie starts, because I'm thinking about like what I think are the best superhero movies personally.
Yep.
Winter Soldier, maybe Wonder Woman is up there.
Oh yeah.
But I just think that maybe my Black Panther is my new favorite. I mean, I'm really having, I just think with all the character development that happens here, and all the visuals and everything, I just think it's like such a breath of fresh air, and it's really an important movie for the studio going forward.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's right there. The argument, the discussion has to be made about the greatest superhero movie of all time.
Yep.
And I think Black Panther's in the mix.
Yep, and that's impressive, I think. So what are you going to say, Jones? You haven't rated it yet.
See it, buy it. Sorry, I'll shut up. I'll shut up for 2 seconds. See it, buy it.
All right, Jones, let's sign out then. So if anybody wants to contact us, we always have our home on the web, halfpasspodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
We're on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify.
We're on Stitcher, Libsyn, and TuneIn.
And we have our email at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com. Send us an email. It'd be fun.
Tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
And all I can say is thank everybody for listening, and thanks everybody for their support, and it really keeps us going knowing that everybody's listening, and it's been a crazy time period these past few months, so we've been really low on podcasts.
Right. Insufficient funds on podcasts. But we're working on it.
But we're working on it, so it's just been a really rough few months for sure, and it's really good to get this one out because Black Panther is fantastic, and so it'll be good. So what are we doing next, Jones? Are we ever going to get Shape of Water?
I think I'm going to... that's going to be my plan for this week. I have to see it. I would have taken my love to go and see it, but I think she's a little creeped out by Fishman and Deaf Girl getting it on. And I maybe should save it for the theoretical podcast that's about to happen. But, I seriously had to stop my mom and my grandmother from going to that movie. And my mom's like, no, it's got like a merman. And I'm like, no, stop. Like, my 87-year-old grandma, she's going to take to see The Shape of Water. And it is not their kind of movie at all. That is not my mom, and that's not my grandma. And, like, she was, like, in the process of ordering tickets, and I'm like, no, you're not going to like it. I haven't seen it, but I can already tell you, enough people have talked to me about it. It is not your fluffy little,
It wasn't going to be a fluffy type of...
It's Guillermo del Toro, and she doesn't understand that. So the thing that put an end to it was me showing the trailer and finding the one where Michael Shannon is just absolutely off the rails yelling at the camera.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Alright, so I guess we'll have to figure out when we're going to get The Shape of Water done.
Yeah, Sunday. We'll do it Sunday.
We'll have to figure... I can't do it this Sunday.
What?
I'm going out of town. I'll be out of town.
Say what?
So, I'm going to go to Vegas this next weekend. But,
you getting hitched?
The weekend after that, we should be able to do it.
Okay.
And we don't have much left to do, but we have to get Maze Runner done also. We have to finish the trilogy.
We have to finish the trilogy. It's where it all started.
It's where it all started.
Maze Runner was where we started.
So in the next month, we have to get Shape of Water and Maze Runner done. We have to do that. That has to happen. So other than that, there's really nothing else showing until I think March, maybe April. I don't remember. I sent you a list anyway. You did. But that's all we have to work about. That's all we have to work about.
Sending me your emails. Like some kind of email sender.
All right. Let's go ahead and get out of here.
Fine.
This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.